pastoring people gives you so many different perspectives about people's lives.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I've seen a common thread in is that people literally will work a job that they hate for 30 years, working 9 to 5, letting school and other things raise their kids, and then take the biggest risk of all, which is believing that they can work a job they hate for 30, 40 years, get to the end of their life, and maybe, if they're healthy enough, enjoy the last 10 years of their life on retirement.
Yeah.
And to me, that is a bigger risk than taking the leap into entrepreneurship. And so I'm
Mm.
like, how can I, with the economy, the creator economy that's available online, how can I teach people how to take their knowledge, their passion, their expertise, and monetize it through digital products?
Yeah.
Because, man, we've got an incredible opportunity with the online space right now for people to create wealth.
Thank you so much for checking out the show today. Look, I want you to stay connected with everything this guest has to offer. So make sure that you sign up for my weekly newsletter. I'm not here to spam you. I'm here to just send you all the behind the scenes videos, shorts, reels from this week's guest, plus some other bonuses on there. So make sure that you hit connect below this video in the description, or go to my website and sign up right there on the homepage, and I'll make sure that you stay in the loop. Thanks so much again. Have an awesome day. Keep changing the world. Mark, your husband, your father, your pastor, you're the host of Wise Builders podcast and Wise Builders business community, church planner, author, entrepreneur, and so much more, man. Thank you for your time, dude. I appreciate it.
Oh, man, what an honor to be on the podcast today.
I like to kick the show off by going back a bit. If I was reading right, like you grew up in West Virginia. What was childhood like for you?
Oh my gosh, man. I grew up in like real close, not in a coal mine, but close to a coal mine.
Okay.
and so,
That's awesome.
But yeah, we actually lived in a little town called Nitro, West Virginia, which was actually named after nitroglycerin. Uh,
Really?
this is a town that was a chemical town. I lived in Chemical Valley,
Come on.
and they made nitroglycerin for the world wars, and that's how that
What?
town was established. So
No
I'm a
way.
person of faith today because I lived in a town that could blow up at any moment. So you better believe in God.
No way, dude. That is wild, man. I mean,
Yeah.
you're a church planner and a pastor now. Like, when did you fully surrender your life to Jesus, though? And was there something that happened that caused you to make that decision?
Yeah, so I grew up in a pastor's home, which
Okay.
doesn't mean anything other than it
Totally.
makes it harder to get saved.
Yeah, totally.
But no, I was 17 years old, graduated from high school early, was thinking that I was going to go on and play football in college. And man, I could not gain weight. And so the people that were scouting me were like, you got to put on another 15. Well, I lost 15.
Oh,
And so it
wow.
was like, what in the world's going on? I just everything that I planned for college just kind of fell apart. Well, my dad was planting a church right across the river from Nitro in a little town called St. Albans. And I would go over there and help him with the church and cleaning out the church and getting things ready. And I remember one Sunday morning, there came a snow, and I wanted to just do my part. Wasn't really walking with the Lord. I just wanted to do my part to make sure that senior citizens didn't slip trying to get to their car between church, after church service. And
Yeah.
so I'm out there shoveling snow. And while I'm out there shoveling snow, it's like the presence of the Lord just invaded my life out there in that parking lot. And it was the first time I ever felt the tangible presence of God come on my life.
Wow.
And tears began to roll down my cheeks. And I left the snow shovel outside, walked straight into my dad's church, laid my head on the altar. And I went from someone that was completely uninterested in God, completely uninterested in reading, learning anything. My whole life was sports.
Yeah.
And I got up from that encounter with God, a man obsessed with the scriptures, obsessed with the presence of God, prayer. And since I've been 17, 18 years old, I've lived my life for his will, his purposes since that day.
Wow. Man, I just got like chills on the back of my neck when you're telling that story. What a cool story, dude, of
Thank you,
just
man.
giving your life to Jesus, man. That's awesome. With all the hats that you wear, like I'm sure you get pulled in so many different directions, but what spiritual disciplines have you found most effective to keep Jesus at the center of your family life?
The way I look at it is the more disciplined I try to become in spiritually, the worse off I am.
Yeah.
But the more I realize the Father's love for me, the easier it is for me to delight in Him when I know He delights in me.
Mm.
So, one of the greatest things that happened, I grew up in a very Pentecostal, legalistic church. So, if you don't
Okay.
know what Pentecostal is, it's speaking in tongues. It's people running, shouting, not snake handling. We weren't snake handling type people.
Sure.
But we always joked about that, but that wasn't our MO. So I
Yeah.
grew up in that, and it was very legalistic. So
Okay.
meaning your salvation's super fragile. If you thought a bad word, you were going straight to hell. It was just
Wow.
like there was no security in Jesus. And so I actually was in the ministry. I'll try to fast track this story because I was in the ministry from 19 until 28. And I
Okay.
would say that from 19 to 28, I did ministry because I grew up in ministry.
Hmm.
But at 28 is when I actually got born
Okay. Come on.
again. So, like, it is possible for you to be a pastor, it is possible for you to be in ministry and not know the gospel.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't talk about it. But, growing up in a pastor's home, I was around great preachers. I watched how pastors live their life, and it can become a job and a duty as well.
Hmm.
And but at 28 years old, I found the message of the gospel and that God loved me and chose to see me exclusively through the lens of Jesus. That I now don't approach him as a sinner, but I approach him as the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus. And
Hmm.
when I recognize the goodness of the gospel and that God found delight in me because of what Jesus had done on my behalf, it changed all of the disciplines for me. And so I don't like to call them disciplines. I still
Sure.
pray, I still fast, I still read, I still practice solitude and silence. There are definitely disciplines in my life, but they're not disciplines anymore. They're delights.
Mm.
And the way I kind of communicate that to people
Yeah.
is, I'm in a covenant relationship with my wife.
Yep.
And I think it's a poor marriage if I have to tell people that I've got to keep myself disciplined to love her.
Oh, so good. So good,
If
dude.
I have to discipline myself to love her, we're not standing on very sure foundation.
Yep.
And so, like, I look at my covenant with God the same way. It is a love relationship, one built on the perfection of Jesus and not my behavior.
Hmm.
So I believe the gospel is Jesus plus nothing. That's the gospel.
Yeah.
And so, like, man, when I got confronted with the reality that my legalism is not what saved me, and it was strictly what Jesus did on my behalf, it opened up a whole new paradigm. So it's hard for me to look at prayer as discipline when I see it as a delight of intimacy.
Oh, come on. That is so good, dude. I love that perspective, man. It's such a good way to look at it there. Ah, I want to get into your Wise Builders business community. This is so awesome. And for those who don't know, like, what's this all about? How did all this come together, man?
Okay, so I've always loved business, entrepreneurship, and in my 18 years of ministry, 19 now, I've pastored a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of creators, a lot of people that have been in the business world, and so some people call that life coaching. I just call it pastoring people, and
Sure.
so I've done that privately with people in our congregation for years, but about 14 months ago in August of 2023, our church completely burned down. So, like, we got totally displaced from our building. We lost everything. I lost my salary. I mean, you're talking everything just stripped away in a matter of a year's time. Like, we lose our
Wow.
salary, move into an apartment, try finally get back on our feet, and then we get hit with the fire. And so it was like, what in the world is going on? And so I started thinking to myself, there's been a real grace on my life,
Yeah.
not only to study business and to love entrepreneurship and not only champion it in other people, but I think there's a real opportunity here for me to have a business to actually do this for more people.
Hmm.
And I had a friend of mine by the name of Rick Pino, who was formerly a worship leader. He will tell you he's always going to be a worshiper, but he took a dive into the digital product space, and so I signed up for his mentoring program when I didn't know what else to do, um, doing the fire, and he really laid out the game plan for everything that I'm walking in today. And so I took the leap of faith to step into this entrepreneurial journey. And I told the Lord, I said, I do not want to live off of the generosity of the people that I serve when
Mhm.
Deuteronomy 8:18 says that you've given me the power to create wealth.
Yeah.
And
Come
so
on.
I really made a shift from, okay, I've literally lived off of the generosity of the saints since I was 19 years old.
Mm.
People have supported us, believed in us, and while that's absolutely incredible, it was always just enough.
Yeah.
But when I took the plunge into creating the business that I am today, we were able to do $30,000 our first 90 days of launching this business.
Whoa. Come
And
on.
and so man, like I'm looking at this thing right now and again, pastoring people gives you so many different perspectives about people's lives.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I've seen a common thread in is that people literally will work a job that they hate for 30 years, working 9 to 5, letting school and other things raise their kids, and then take the biggest risk of all, which is believing that they can work a job they hate for 30, 40 years, get to the end of their life, and maybe, if they're healthy enough, enjoy the last 10 years of their life on retirement.
Yeah.
And to me, that is a bigger risk than taking the leap into entrepreneurship. And so I'm
Mm.
like, how can I, with the economy, the creator economy that's available online, how can I teach people how to take their knowledge, their passion, their expertise, and monetize it through digital products?
Yeah.
Because, man, we've got an incredible opportunity with the online space right now for people to create wealth. You
Huge.
know, with your podcast, with what you're doing, like there's incredible opportunities in front of us. And I want to do my part to start
Mhm.
an entrepreneurial revolution where people can find true financial freedom, time freedom, and make memories with their family now instead of waiting till their kids are old and they're not old and they're not healthy enough to enjoy that part of their life. So I'm
Yeah.
committed to that.
Man, that is so true. And that's the mindset I think for myself that I have like I don't want to work a job that I hate for 30 years, man. I'd rather be able to spend time with my kids and my wife and not
Yes,
ask for permission to go to a
exactly.
play in the middle of the day or go to a baseball game, right? Like I don't want to have to ask permission to do that.
That's
And
right.
that's what's such a driver for me to be successful in the podcast in the digital space and continue to improve this thing. How has your journey with Jesus shaped the foundation of this community that you're building?
Oh man. Well, the foundation of this whole thing, there's a paraphrase version of a scripture in Proverbs 24, verse 3,
Mhm.
that says that wisdom builds three things. It builds families, it builds businesses, and it builds communities.
Mhm.
And when I look at that, I'm like, well, we should always be praying, Lord, give us wisdom. Well,
Yeah.
if we're asking for wisdom and wisdom builds those three things, then I want to be a part of that. And
Mhm.
so like I feel like there is a wisdom that God makes available to us. If you can trace this all the way back to the Hebraic roots of Abraham, Moses, all the way back through the old covenant,
Yeah.
God has always put his hand on entrepreneurs. They've always been, his people have always been wealth creators. And so, like, as I look into the scripture and I see verses like Deuteronomy 8:18, where it's God that gives you the power to create wealth, that he might establish his covenant in the earth. When
Mhm.
he gives verses to his people in Exodus, he says, I'll bless anything that you put your hand to, and anything you put your hand to will prosper. Well,
Wow.
I don't know if you know what anything means in Hebrew, but it means anything.
It's I love it. Right?
And so,
Come on.
like, we literally live in a place of covenant with God where
Yeah.
He promises to bless anything we put our hand to and that we have the power to create wealth. And today, they call the online space and the money that's created in the online space, they call it the creator economy.
Mm.
And they're saying
Wow.
that by 2028, the creator economy in the digital space will make up $500 billion in the market. And so that means
Huge.
we haven't even scratched the surface of it. So
Come on.
I'm just looking at like what God says is available to us as believers.
Hmm.
And honestly, a lot of Christians have a poor perspective on money. And so like I'm trying to fix that to give right thinking about money, right think that money is not evil. It's the love and the constant pursuit of money that is evil.
Yeah.
But money seen in the right way, money can be a master if you let it be.
Sure.
But a kingdom man and a kingdom woman sees money as a tool. And I think it's interesting again that God says, I've given you the power to create wealth. that I might establish my covenant. So
Yeah.
God's
Come
saying
on.
a part of establishing my will in the earth is there has to be people exchanging value that creates a currency to fulfill his will. So
Yeah.
I ask people all the time, like, if we don't have entrepreneurs, we don't build hospitals. If we don't have
Come on.
entrepreneurs, we don't build orphanages. If we
Yep.
don't have entrepreneurs, we don't dig wells and bring fresh water to people that don't have access to it. So if the kingdom needs anything, we definitely don't need, we're not lacking pastors, preachers, and people that want to share their opinions,
Totally.
but we are lacking entrepreneurial thinking.
Yeah.
And I want to change that, man. I
Come
want to
on.
change that.
And in fact, one of the bonuses that you offer in your community is this money mindset training. Like, and I know
Yeah.
that mindset is so huge when it comes to being successful as an entrepreneur. Like, why do you think though that folks struggle so much with mindset? And like, what's step one for them to kind of break through on that?
Man, that's really good. Well, I think that there's so many ways that we could talk about this. So like it's hard for me to say like number one, number two, number three,
Yeah, yeah.
because there's so many people that start off from different places. I think number one, I think as it pertains to money and how we look at it, I think people have such a low view of themselves that they don't
Mm,
trust themselves with money.
yeah,
So people think that, I think some people think that money, if they had more money, that it would make their life better. I think you and I, anybody that's made money and have been successful at things, I think you can say that money doesn't actually make things better. It just exposes who you already are. It
for
and it
sure.
and it really magnifies who you are. So
Yeah.
I think that one of the first steps is for financial success is you've got to stop having such a low view of humanity.
Mm,
You've got, which begins with the view of yourself. Isn't it interesting that when Jesus tells us, the two greatest commandments, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your strength, and then, but the second one is this, and love your neighbor. Don't stop just there. Put a comma there. It's not a period.
right.
As you love yourself.
Mm,
So our ability to love, our ability to serve, our ability to bring value to the world is based on our own ability to love and value ourselves.
yeah.
And so one of the biggest things that I see is people have such a low view of humanity, including a low view of themselves. And as long as you have that low view of yourself, it doesn't matter how much money you make or you don't have, your money will only become either fuel or expose the view that you have of yourself. So I think that mindset begins with what I call beloved identity,
Mm,
knowing that God loves me with an unconditional love, and me being able to partner with how He sees me, truly sees me in Christ. And so it's like I believe all of this begins with having a right view of yourself
mm,
and
yeah.
that value system that you have and being able to see yourself as Christ sees you then gives you the ability now to handle money instead of money handling you.
Yeah, come on, dude. That's so good. I mean,
Yeah.
I was 21 years old and filed bankruptcy. I was $28,000 in debt at 21, and I was just
Wow.
stupid with money, right? And now I live a debt-free life, and we have vehicles paid off, and zero credit card debt and things like that. But
It's
man,
awesome.
it took me to hit real rock bottom before I really, woke up out of that,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
There's a lot of coaches and entrepreneurs out there that they, stand in front of the rented cars and the rented houses, right? And they say things like, create a $27 product and sell 1,000 of them this month. You'll make
Yeah.
27 grand. Like,
Yeah.
how does someone who genuinely wants to change their situation financially decipher between like the fakes and the real coaches out there that can really help them?
Oh man. Well, let me say this. I think that I'm always weary of people constantly flexing material things.
Yes.
Like the first time that I see a coaching video that begins with flashing their Rolex before they ever get anything valuable out of their mouth, I'm like, okay, all right, I already see what this is about. For you, a win is your Rolex. For you, a win is your car. For you, your win is staying in some luxurious place. And they're always flashing material things as if that's and I know some of them do it for marketing purposes, whatever. But
Sure.
at the end of the day, I think that when you find a coach that looks and says, you know what a win is for me? You making it.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
A real win for me is seeing you be able to recapture time with your children, have you're making enough money that you can actually afford a date night with your wife consistently.
Yeah.
You winning where you can take your family on vacation this year and not have to worry about where that money's coming from.
Mhm.
Like, I think that again, there's such an obsession with a lot of these online coaches that make it all their wins are material things. And I'm like, that's not deep enough for me.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the flex for me is having a house that my children can grow up in that's
Hmm.
paid for. For
Yeah.
me, a win is me being able to look at my child and say, you don't have to follow the ways of America to find success because I've been able to hand you an inheritance and you don't have to go to school. I've got money here to fund whatever the passion is in your heart.
Mm.
And if that includes school, great, we'll pay for that. But if not, I want to be able to hand you the money to go to the school of music. I want to hand you the ability to buy the camera that could start your vlogging career. Like
Yeah.
that to me are the real flexes and the real wins. So what I look for, this is just me, this is just my opinion. When I see a coach online that their flex has to do with their family, their wife, their children, I'm in.
Yeah.
Period.
Come on, family first, man, always. And
Always.
the material stuff. I know there was a time when I was like always trying for the material stuff and it didn't work out. Like, I
Yeah,
failed miserably in that,
sure.
hunting for that stuff, right? And so
Yeah.
I love talking with other podcasters though. And for you, you're the host of the Wise Builders podcast, where you talk about building families, businesses, and communities influenced by
Mhm.
the goodness of God. Man, for you, like, what's your favorite part about podcasting and how has it helped you in your business side of stuff?
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So how it's helps in business is when you interview somebody else, you're getting free coaching.
True. Yeah.
If you think about
Yeah,
it,
for
you're
sure, dude.
bringing like how does it help my business? It helps because I'm inviting someone in on the podcast that I believe is carrying intrinsic value. Every human being has intrinsic value, but
Yep.
I'm saying they're bringing a really valuable piece to you and your audience. So
Yep.
one of the cool benefits of being a podcast host is you get to grow from what your guest invest and so does your audience. So
Hmm.
that's the direct impact upon my business is I'm sitting here talking to these people and I'm asking them questions that's going to grow my business, which ultimately is going to grow all the people that I'm helping with their businesses.
Yep.
And so, that is a big part of that for me is I'm an avid learner. I know that I'm never going to arrive, and there's always people carrying valuable pieces that I can bring into my business. And what I love about podcasting is I get to share that my journey, my learning, my conversations with all those who are wanting to do the same thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love it, man. It's so good to just have great conversations. And some of my best friends today are people that I've had on my podcast, but I've never met them in person, right? Like
Yeah,
you
right.
just build such good relationships out of podcasting there. Always interesting to ask, like, what's a favorite tool or platform that you're using right now that kind of helps you in your business? Like whether it's a software or some sort of other thing, like what tools are you putting into place to help you?
The two things that I really have built everything on is I love Kajabi
Hmm.
and I love school. And so I've
Okay.
actually built out the entirety of my business on Kajabi. So everything from my podcast to my sales funnels to my landing pages to my email marketing, everything done in one place. And again, there's people that are like, yeah, but what about Go High Level? What about, I'm not saying all of them are great.
Sure.
I just have personally loved the experience, the user friendliness of Kajabi, and I can build out the entirety of my business in one platform.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I say school with it, everybody knows Alex Harmozy in the business world, entrepreneur world. When he threw his full weight behind, like as an entrepreneur, like that guy is like a trendsetter
Totally.
in business. And so like when you see a guy like that throw his full weight behind something, you go, I need to pay attention to this.
Yep.
And one of the things I would say, just being real about the products that I use is one of the missing links that I think for culture today is community. And so
Hmm.
a lot of people are building incredible communities online. And I think one of the fastest ways to make money and one of the greatest tools to create community almost overnight is school. And so,
Yeah.
like, and I feel like Kajabi's really missing that piece. Like, they have a community side of things, but it's not user friendly. It's not as interactive. It's not as easy to engage. School, I think, is one of the greatest platforms for somebody that's like, I really want to give my life to investing in a group of people that exist in a certain niche. And the ways that they've given you the ability to connect with people has made it just like amazing. So between Kajabi and school right now, those are the two tools that I've built the entirety of my business on, and Zoom. And if you
Come on.
don't know, like if COVID did anything for us, it introduced us to Zoom.
Yeah, yeah, totally, right?
Right?
So good, dude. I wish I
Yeah.
had stock in Zoom before the,
Oh my gosh. Yeah, for sure, man. We'd be
before.
millionaires upon millionaires.
What is like being in the marketing space and doing business, like what are those things that you're seeing online today that just make you cringe like in people's marketing tactics?
Oh man. I man, that's a hard one. Because there's a lot of cringe stuff out there. So it's like
Totally.
hard to pick one.
Yeah.
But for me, it's always the whole like generic approach of just
Mhm.
regurgitating information. It's like you could literally pull up your feed and hear people saying the same thing the same way, just regurgitating information.
Yeah.
And I think that there's such a culture today online where people literally lack authenticity.
Mhm.
And so, like, that you can tell that they're bringing you dry information from something they read instead of something they've done and actually lived. And so,
Huge.
like, the most cringe thing for me on the internet is probably not the most obvious thing to other people.
Sure.
So for other people that doesn't know this world and they don't read the books and they don't know, like they probably look at those videos and go, "Oh, that's pretty good information." But for a guy like me who has really tried to build his life on wisdom, and this is why always tell people, there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is just acquiring facts. Wisdom is knowing what to do with the knowledge you have.
Come on.
And so like for me, like I and wisdom has an authenticity to it.
Mhm.
You ever sit down with a 25-year-old to ask him about the meaning of life and you're like, this kid's full of crap.
Totally, dude.
And you talk to a 75-year-old man and there's gold nuggets in everything they say, whether they were a guy that worked in a grocery store their entire life, a farmer or a truck driver, it doesn't matter. They've lived life. And
Yeah.
inside of their wisdom of what they've done in life, there's always gold. And when I
Mhm.
look in the online space, you're seeing a bunch of people that are just regurgitating things they've read and not actually sharing from the wisdom of actually doing things that they've read about. It lacks authenticity. And to me, that's probably the most cringe because you're not being real with people, but more than that, you're not being real with yourself. That's
Yeah.
super cringe to me.
Oh man, I love like I'm an early riser and I love getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Well, I get up at 4, but I love being up at 6 a.m. and going and having coffee with my what I would call mentors, but they're like in their
Yeah.
70s and 80s, right? Like
Yeah.
I love, and they don't even know how to use a computer, most of them, but like I love sitting down with those guys and just like soaking up so much knowledge from them about
Yes.
life, man. And it's so
Yes.
good to have that in your life.
Yeah.
As we come to a close, I'm a big music guy. So I'm to ask the question, like, what type of music do you like to listen to? Or is there a favorite band that you like to listen to?
Oh man, I'm such an eclectic guy when it comes to music. I grew up in a very musical family, so on my dad's side, everybody can sing and everybody
Wow.
can play an instrument.
Okay.
I got left with playing the drums.
Okay.
So, but hey, I it's awesome.
Yeah.
But growing up in a musical family like that, I mean, my great uncle played for Chet Atkins and for Johnny Cash. He was on the Caravan
What?
tour. Like
No
my
way.
family's, my dad's side of the family, they were all the McClanahans, and they all like lived in the Gallatin, all those Nashville areas around Nashville. So I grew up around music, and so I like everything from country, hip hop. I like it all, man. I
Yeah.
just love it all. So, but if you had to ask me, like, what's the band that like just shakes me to the core, and just like, and I love something I can just throw on and drive.
Yeah.
So there's, I have to say, one of my favorite voices besides Chris Stapleton
Yes.
is the Marcus Allen King Band.
Okay. Okay.
You ever heard them?
The name sounds familiar, but I don't know if I've listened. I'm gonna have to pull them up after
Oh
this.
my gosh. Do
Okay.
yourself a favor, just put it on and you can thank me later.
Yeah. Come on, man. So good. Now, you
Yeah.
mentioned that you were moving out to Alabama. One of my favorite bands that I've been listening to just this year, I haven't found out about the Red Clay Strays are
Okay.
this band that I came across and amazing vocals. Like the dude looks like he's 25, 27 years
Yeah.
old, but he comes out singing like an Elvis sort of like awesome sound though,
Wow.
country-ish.
Wow.
The Red Clay Strays, man, definitely one of my favorite bands. I've been trying to get my family to listen to it, but they're not a country fan, so I've been pushing on that. But
Oh,
definitely a
that's
band worth checking
funny.
out. They're from Mobile, Alabama, out there,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, they're an awesome group, man.
That's
Uh,
really cool. I'll check it out.
but Mark, I love that you came on the show today. You shared so much knowledge and wisdom, man, and you're an absolute world changer. I'm praying for you and your family and your business, your community, man. Thank you so much for your time, dude. I appreciate
Well,
you.
thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
Hey, if you've ever thought about starting a podcast but unsure where to go, you need to go check out erikallenmedia.com. Click on the resources tab there. I will walk you through how to start, launch, and run a podcast. I've recorded over 500 interviews since 2017, and I want to help you launch your podcast. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you catch every show when I drop them. Thanks again. Keep changing the world.